What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bridging to Geekdoms. I am your host, Robert Slavinsky. And with me today is not Colton Bird. I actually don't know where he is right now. No idea. Tried to get a hold of him. Couldn't get a hold of him. Hopefully everything's okay. I don't know for a fact, though. So, yeah. With that said, this episode is going to be kind of a departure from our most recent episodes where we talked so much about DC, whether it's Zack Snyder or all the other shenanigans going on with the DC EU filmverse and all of that noise. We're actually going to talk about mostly Marvel today. There's a little bit of DC I'm going to touch on, but not much. Mostly it's going to be Marvel centric. But I do have a guest with me. His name on here goes Infamous 412. So that's what I'm going to call him, Infamous right now. So here he is, Infamous. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. The long time coming. You've been wanting to get on for a while.
I know.
always something else going on, but that's all right. So, yeah. So, again, I know I kind of talked to you a little bit. We're going to talk a good bit about Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know you're an avid movie watcher.
Oh, yeah.
You're in our Spoilerverse group, and you're pretty much the one that tries to start all the conversations when it comes to film. So I appreciate that.
And sometimes they fail.
That's all right. But I am going to talk about a few other things here before we get into everything. And this one here kind of hit us all pretty shockingly a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't able to. I had some other stuff going on last week, so I wasn't able to do a real show to sit down and talk about this. But we lost Chadwick Boseman, who played Black Panther in the MCU. It was kind of a shocking event. No one knew that this was, a possibility. No one knew he was sick. So losing him is a gut punch for sure. But the amazing thing about him, not about him dying, but about him, is what he brought to the masses by portraying Black Panther and being a strong role model for so many kids out in the world. I mean, I know you're a bit older. You're not somebody who's going to sit there and say, "Oh, I looked up to Chadwick Boseman as an actor, as his character of Black Panther." But I'm sure it had to have some kind of meaning to you. I mean, it did to me. Like I understood. Like I compared it to what Wonder Woman did for women. What a year or two prior. I mean, that's what Chadwick Boseman did for the African American community. I don't know if you can. I mean, it's not why I had you on my show, but
No, I get it, man. The only time you want to talk Black Panther, you put me on here. No. So yeah. I mean, it did hit like the African community like very hard, and there's been like petitions right now on just like don't have anybody else play Black Panther, which is like insane to me. But that's just like Aunt Viv. She got replaced halfway through, Fresh Prince. But
difference is, it was a cultural icon.
Yeah, but I mean, still, the Marvel universe has to go forward. I mean, just because someone dies, you can't just put everything on a hold. So I completely understand. But I would say, I would let his sister pick up the mantle. I mean, there's a lot of different ways they can go, like so many different ways, but I honestly can't wait to see, but
yeah,
you got, man.
From my standpoint, I understand the idea of not recasting the role. I get that. However, from what we've all heard and read about Chadwick Boseman, he would have been somebody who said, look, the character is bigger than me. What he means, that character means to the world is more important than just my life. And I truly believe he would think something like that, just out of everything I've read. I've never met him, I've never talked to him. But from what I've read about the kind of person he is, and I think it would do a disservice to the character and to the legacy of the character that they started building 4 or 5 years ago if they were just to write him off, behind or not off screen, essentially. I'm in the the minority, I think, here that says recast him, but when you recast the character for the next movie, end it where it's passing the mantle on to Shuri, to the sister. That way you get one more movie fully of a T'Challa Black Panther film, but you also leave it open that if that character is received well, he can continue popping up throughout the MCU in the future if that portrayal is received as well as Chadwick Boseman's was. However, the Black Panther mantle would live on through Shuri at that time. I think that is the best way to handle it because you're kind of getting the best of everything. You're not, hurting the legacy. You're not slapping the face of those who love what Chadwick brought. You're kind of honoring everything all at one time and moving forward. I think personally that's the best way to go.
Yeah. I mean, just to caveat off of that too. I mean, we do have the technology. We've seen it with Carrie Fisher, it's like we can, just keep it rolling just for a little bit more, just so, like you said, we can pass that mantle. And I would like to see that versus, them just write them off. Like that would just be terrible, but I like that.
That was everyone's, fear with Carrie Fisher. You brought up Carrie Fisher, that they were just going to write her off screen. And, that character, which has meant so much to people for 40 plus years at that point, they knew that they couldn't do that. And that was more of a slippery slope in recasting because of it being a 40-year long legacy that she built. I was also a fan of the idea of recasting Leia. I mean, being as big of a Star Wars fan as I was, I kind of wanted them to do that. But that's not to say I didn't enjoy what they were able to do with what they had. The scenes were weird. There's a couple of scenes
they were kind of weird
where it just the eye line didn't work out or something like that. But I thought it was a valiant effort and a really cool way to do that. I remember going to theater and my mom was sitting next to me and she looks at me like, what? Like how? My mom didn't understand. So unfortunately, I doubt that they have that much footage of Chadwick Boseman that they could do something like that with. It would be nice. We got the deep fake technology, and
exactly. I was just about to bring that up. Yeah,
and really, you have his family, his estate would have to sign off on allowing that. But now you're going down a slippery slope because then you're going to start getting into things where you don't really need actors to act anymore. No. You just you want to do a Tom Cruise movie? Well, just
need a body.
Exactly. You need a 5'2" body. You're good to go.
Yeah.
That's just a slippery slope, and I don't want to see them do that. I want to see them recast. I think allowing another person to take on that mantle of T'Challa and see what they can bring, I think is a good idea, and I think it wouldn't disrespect what Chadwick did, and I don't think he would think that way either.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah, for sure. So rest in, I guess, what is it? It's rest in power. Everybody's been saying for Chadwick. I mean, it was again, very shocking, unfortunate, but he lived a good life. And despite him only really starting to get his stardom late in life, I tell you what, 42, that movie, when I saw that, I specifically went in to watch that movie because I'm a huge Harrison Ford fan. Nice. But holy crap, did he act his ass off in that movie? So if you haven't seen 42, check that out. It's the Jackie Robinson story. Absolutely phenomenal if you're a baseball fan, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to throw one more thing in. The main thing that I'm just happy about is he lived a decent life. He wasn't one of those people that had any of that crazy accusations or anything going on. I think he was all about his profession, wanted to stay in it, so he did what he had to do. So of course, that's the kind of stuff that I honor just as a person,
Yeah,
I haven't heard anything negative. So
yeah, definitely, yeah, and I don't think we will. I mean, you figure he's been playing that. He was the character of Black Panther for 5 years, roughly 6 years, and you would think that if anybody wanted to put anything out negative about him, they would have by now. So I don't think we're ever going to do anything, and they definitely won't do it now that he's passed. But he again, like I said, everything you read or have seen or what his family or friends have said, he was just a stand-up guy, a really good guy.
Yeah. Which is awesome.
Definitely. I don't know if you've heard much about this. Like I said, I am going to touch some Warner Brothers DC stuff, and I'm going to talk about that right now. Ray Fisher, for the past few months, has been kind of going at it towards Warner Brothers for the on-set treatment during the shoots and everything that took place for 2017's Justice League, which was helmed by Josh Whedon, and obviously Jeff Johns and John Berg were involved with that. There is a lot going on with this whole situation. And I think it's kind of ridiculous that we have people who are coming out trying to say that Ray Fisher is kind of being like a drama queen of sorts, or, he's just kind of, he's being dumb, for doing this, trying to take on a conglomerate like Warner Brothers. But it comes down to this, he was mistreated. Other people in the cast was mistreated, as well as the crew was mistreated. He is the one that is willing to come out and say, look, this happened. He's still a young actor in Hollywood. This could completely ruin his career, and he does not care. He is saying accountability is greater than entertainment, and that is kind of what he's been going and building this whole case off of. I encourage everybody to go look at it. I have an article coming out tomorrow on spoilerverse.com that kind of goes through all of everything that has transpired since June of this year until now, all the different tweets and what has been said and the remarks from both sides. It's pretty crazy. I don't know if you've heard much about it, but I really think that this could shake Hollywood to the core, because Warner Brothers is such a big, big company within Hollywood. And the fact that Warner Brothers apparently, off of what we've seen, was trying to shut Ray Fisher up and push all this under the rug, I think is a big sign of, some bad stuff going on there. And I'm hoping that this brings to light all of the negativity and gets rid of it. It's ridiculous. I don't know if you've read or seen anything about it.
So, yeah, I don't know too much about it, and I definitely wanted to look at it. It did pop up on my news feeds, and I was just like, wow, man, I probably need to check this out, but I just haven't got there yet. I do want to learn more about, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to look it up soon. Yeah, I definitely need to hear what he said.
Yeah, for the most part, real quickly, he tweeted out the beginning of July that the onset treatment that he and the crew experienced with Josh Whedon and John Berg and Jeff Johns was just unnecessary, just terrible, gross and unnecessary, and it was just bad. He then just kind of continued that it wasn't just him, that it was others on the set, other actors and actresses that were there. That Jeff Johns then tried to call him into the office, and he threatened his career because of the way that he was trying to, with Zack Snyder's Justice League, or with Justice League, I should say, when Zack Snyder was helming it, Zack Snyder and Chris Terrio, who were writing the film, actually sat down prior to putting pen to paper with Ray Fisher and said, hey, we're white guys. We don't understand how to write an African-American. We want your input. We want you to do this. And Ray Fisher sat down with them, and they built this character together to get the proper kind of structure behind this character, so it doesn't feel like it's just two white guys writing about a black man, Yeah. And that was the beauty about it. That's the beauty. And when Josh Whedon came in, he cut all that crap out. He cut it all out. If you watch 2017's Justice League, it just, you can tell that there was so much of Ray Fisher's character arc, or Cyborg's character arc, that was just taken out. And that's what Ray Fisher was trying to fight for. He was trying to fight for this arc, this character.
Yeah.
And Jeff Johns kind of threatened his career and said, look, if you come in here trying to say this, that's it. Your career's over. It then continued to build up as, all the stuff that Josh Whedon was doing on set and everything like that. It got to a point where he just couldn't take it anymore. And, he was just, he had it. He was done. When everything came out with the new regime taking over DC Films and them now releasing Zack Snyder's Justice League, Ray Fisher felt safe enough to come out and say, look, it's time that this gets taken care of. I know it happened 3 years ago, but we need to look into this and get this taken care of. And now it's just been a back and forth between him and Warner about who said what's happening, what happened, who's doing what to make it better, who's trying to fix it, who's not. And that's kind of what's been going on for the past few weeks now. And it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's, Warner's trying to throw him under the bus and discredit him as much as they can. Meanwhile, he has all these receipts that he'll just be like, look, you're trying to say I didn't do this. Here's proof that I did. You're trying to say I did this. Here's proof that I didn't. And that's what's going on right now. Yeah. Wow. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
What's even crazier, and I kind of have to think that I don't know if John Boyega would have done what he did had it not been for what Ray Fisher is going through right now. But John Boyega, I talked about this on my free talk this past week. John Boyega came out and was like, look, Disney hired me because of my skin color. I mean, that's kind of bold to say because Disney, which is probably the biggest production company in the world right now, he's saying, look, you hired me because I'm black. You hired Kelly Marie Tran because she's Asian. You hired Oscar Isaac because he's of Hispanic descent, and you didn't build our characters as you should. And when you sit there and you think about the sequel trilogy,
it was pretty terrible, but
I mean, it's just
it was pretty bad.
So it's interesting what's going on right now. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, we could say the same thing about the Power Rangers. I mean, they hired everybody because they were different ethnicities. But it's still like a touchy subject.
Yeah, I mean, but if you think about it this way, think about the time of these movies coming out. What's been going on in the world? The diversity is such a huge deal right now when it comes to races, genders, sexual orientation, all of that. Yep. I mean, it's huge, without a doubt. And anybody who's a fan of The Last Jedi can try and fight me on this. That movie, 90% of that cast was cast to pander to the diverse crowd, the diversity crowd. Because you have, a lesbian, you have, Kelly Marie Tran, who's Asian, coming in there. You could take a look and you sit back and look at that movie and you're like, wow, there's no white people in it, but 3, you can tell. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but don't just do it because you're pandering. Don't just do it because you're doing it. Do it because there's a reason behind it, that you're trying to build these characters. You want to make them interesting characters. Kelly Marie Tran's character got screwed out of anything come The Rise of Skywalker. She got 30 seconds of screen time. John Boyega in The Force Awakens was built up going to be this major character, had a pointless storyline in episode 8, and then was basically just screaming Rey every 30 seconds in episode 9.
Which was, I think one of the best scenes was, hey, I got something to tell you. And then what happened after that?
Never tells her.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
Yeah. So, I mean, it comes down to, there's some big things going on in the world, not just in the world, but in Hollywood, in Hollywood, but as well as the world. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I think this could shake things up a little bit. I'm surprised we haven't seen Lucasfilm or Disney respond to what John Boyega said, but I think it's a matter of time. I do.
Yeah, I think they're definitely building a case. Just have you watched the new The Boys yet? Have you seen the first 3 episodes yet? Please say yes.
Yeah. Here we go. The Boys, season 2, episodes 1
cool.
3.
But the part where, man, I don't want to give away spoilers, but they're still trying to prep a case. Yeah, but they're still trying to prep a case, for something that was released.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, like by the end of the show, like they actually had a legit case on like how they were able to spin it and make it into something that was about something completely different. So I like, that's kind of like where I was trying to like, go with that, but I just didn't want to give away like too much information actually, on it.
I wanted to talk about The Boys, the first 3 episodes. And I'm glad that you've actually got a chance to sit down and watch it, because The Boys is a fantastic show. I got my fiance into it. She's been watching it and enjoying it herself. So I'm trying to get this show out there. I mean, it's such a great, different take on superheroes. And I'm sure if you're somebody who watches or listens to this podcast, you're probably somebody who watches it. So hopefully you got to watch episodes 1 through 3. But tell me, what did you think of the first 3 episodes? Is it as good as the first season or better?
Man. Dude, like I don't think we can compare it yet. We only got 3. Yeah. It's not like, it's something we can binge through the whole thing, but I can tell you from what I have seen, I think it's going in the right direction. I mean, it's still wild. It's still, the same old The Boys, like like I said, I mean, I like the direction. I mean, it's still just as insane, explosions, blood, gore, everything you could ever want,
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't compare it yet. Like we don't have all of them, and the only thing that makes me mad is the every Friday thing now instead of being able to binge it. Like that's terrible.
I mean, Netflix has pretty much spoiled us with being able to binge it all within a couple days. Yeah. Although there's pros and cons with that. I mean, I'm used to it because of Disney Plus last year with The Mandalorian. I had to wait week to week with that. So The Boys, it is what it is. I mean, it's old school TV watching. Now you got to wait week to week. Yeah, it's not like the digital age. But I'll say this with these first 3 episodes. I think I understand why they dropped the first 3 like this, because the first 3 episodes truly feel like a continuation from season 1. And not until episode 3 until you're like, okay, they're going in a completely different direction now, as opposed to doing an episode in season 1. And that's kind of what I think was great about dropping those 3 episodes, because while the repercussions of what happened in season 1, the character development, the characters who are mad at each other or what have you at this point are not trusting one another, I think it's one of those things that pushing it forward to get past that, finally see where they're going to go, was kind of a smart move to do in the first 3 episodes.
Okay.
Walk.
Yeah, my dog needs to go out. I completely forgot about him. He's been crazy. I know this is not something that we should normally do, but this dude had to go.
All right. That's all right. One of my dogs is just sitting right here next to me.
Yeah.
Sleeping. You got to do what you got to do with that. Do you have anything else that you want to say? I think so far the first 3 episodes have been fantastic. I like the new superhero heroine that they brought in. I think she's interesting. I think there's going to be something that's going to be interesting with her character moving forward for sure. But I've never read the comics or anything like that, so I have no idea if this stays true to what the comics were doing or not. So it's kind of it's all new.
So like here's the bad thing with me too. So I've never looked at the comics until after the first season. That's when I started like diving a little bit more into it. And then like the only reasons why I look at the comics is just to see like what the comparisons are. And then once I noticed a lot of differences with it, I was just like, oh man, they might be going in a different direction. Yeah. Which is the same thing with like, The Walking Dead, for instance. But like even with this though, like I do agree with like your first statement about like it would not have seemed well if they just released 1 episode at a time. It wouldn't have worked. You needed all 3 of them as a continuation in order to get to that stopping point to do that weekly series drop. But yeah, I guess we are going back to like old time, once a week instead of like the binging. I mean, like I would have loved the binging, but then what do you do when it's done? Like it like I don't know, you kind of lose it. You know,
Yeah.
like you binge it all in like 1 day or in 2 days, and then what else is left? You know, so I don't know.
This is kind of interesting. This just seemed to have dropped. Jason Momoa to voice Frosty the Snowman in live action pick for Warner Brothers and Stampede Ventures. Let's see. The reason why this is interesting, because it's going to see Jason Momoa voicing the iconic Snowman. John Berg and Greg Silverman of Stampede will produce with Jeff Johns of Mad Ghost. Roy Lee and Momoa. Berg and Silverman were Warner Brothers executives who helped architect the DC franchise, launch Aquaman with James Wan. Where's that here? Yeah. That to me seems absolutely crazy. Because it's John Berg and Jeff Johns who are under scrutiny and investigation right now at Warner Brothers for the way that they treated and allowed the actions to take place on the Justice League set, which Jason Momoa was on. So it is kind of shocking that this is going in this direction. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, because I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting for that to drop right now. Sure.
Yeah, that's like super weird, man. I don't even really have too much to say. You pretty much said everything on that one. I mean, like, that's just insane.
Yeah.
But maybe we will get something decent out of it, or maybe it won't happen, honestly. Like, it depends on, I don't know, I guess the treatment that he felt too, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And if he's just the voice, that doesn't mean he's ever going to be on set. He could just be voicing the character and never talk to them. So, yeah, you can look at it that way. Before we get into what I really want to talk about, I do want to mention one more thing. I happened to stumble across this weekend as I was drinking some adult beverages. Came across on the Amazon Prime something that very interesting. I totally forgot about this movie, and being a fan of the franchise that I am and was, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to watch it. So we jumped over and started watching the 2019 Child's Play. And I read a little review about it because, yeah, I don't know if you happen to check that movie out, but
I have not. Honestly, I've not. And I feel kind of bad to like just like all moviegoers. Like, I usually watch like everything, but no, I missed that one. Slipped through the cracks, man.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of the original series. That's some of the first horror movies that I watched growing up. So I was like, you know what, I gotta give it a shot, you know. And I thought, what's the worst that could happen? You got Aubrey Plaza, who is absolutely adorable. She's a pretty decent actress. She's been in some really cool things, Parks and Rec and Legion, which have been two great shows that I enjoyed. And then you have Mark Hamill doing the voice of Chucky. I was like, you can't go wrong with Mark Hamill, right?
No, man.
Dude, this movie's bad.
Yeah.
It is so bad. Honestly, there are moments in this movie where I just laughed. Maybe it was the alcohol, but I mean, it wasn't laughing because it was supposed to be funny. I laughed because it was just that bad. Like, really, that's the best you could do. And it's just, it was just so disappointing to see this IP be utilized in such a way. You know, it just, there was really no connection to the original, kind of story of it, with the exception of there being a doll that's kind of named Chucky. And if you watch the movie, you'll know why he's not really named Chucky, but it is Chucky. And the kid was named Andy. Besides that, everything else is different. Everything. There's not a single thing besides those two things that are similar to what the original was. And it was disappointing. Now, don't get me wrong. It's an interesting story to tackle because it's similar to that of like Terminator, just to a lesser extent of Little Doll. But it's about AI taking over, essentially. So think of like your Amazon devices or your Google devices. how they're all a part of our lives now and in our houses, where there's a company called Caslin in this film that is basically that. They're basically like a company that produces those types of products that you put the little microphones up, they control the heat in your house, they control your lights, they control your TV, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But now they have a little doll that they can, and it walks around. And it becomes a child's best friend and talks and does this and that. Well, in the beginning of the movie, you see that these are being made in Vietnam, and a worker who is the one programming the chip
disgruntled. Please tell me. Exactly. Oh my God.
Because his boss is yelling at him because he seems lazy. So he's like, when you're done with this one, you're fired. Get out. So he reprograms the chip to go crazy.
Yes, I did see that somewhere.
And then he jumps off the roof. He jumps off the roof and dies. This goes out to the world. That's what it is. It is nothing like what Child's Play is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I get why they called it Child's Play. It's utilizing a famous IP to try and draw an audience in. However, it should not have been called Child's Play. It should have been called something completely different. And I'm sure it would have been just as successful as it was, because it wasn't really all that successful. But it was annoying. Like, it was just, that's how bad it was. So I do say, look, if you're bored, you're drinking, getting high, whatever you want to do, and you're like, you know what, I can watch this for free, give it a watch. Maybe that's why I laughed so much, is because I was drinking during that time.
Yeah. No. It's probably comedic. Like, completely comedic. No. So, question then. Was it better than Bride of Chucky? Was it worse?
So the first two Child's Play films, I really enjoy as your late 80s, early 90s horror flicks. I think they do a really good job of being what horror movies were back then. As you get onto those sequels, they become campy, and they kind of turn into the joke and the campiness of what it had become. So it works because they're kind of like, yeah, we're campy. We know we're going to be campy, and that's how we're going to be. And I get it. I wasn't not going to sit here and say Bride of Chucky or The Curse of Chucky or those films were good. I get what they were. They weren't great, but they were good enough. And it was a decent continuation of the story. And it still understood the lore of what the story was and is. This just isn't. No, I would say you can't compare it because of how different it is. Yeah. I'll say the horror aspect is not there with either of the, like, there was not a moment in this movie that I was ever like, scary. Yeah. But again, I think the first one has horror elements that are done really well in the original. This one doesn't have that, and neither did Bride of Chucky or any of those other sequels that have come out since the first two. I don't know. I'll say this, like, I would rather watch the original series than watch this movie again. So I mean, that's the way I look at it.
I can see that. Yeah, it always goes that way, and like the classics are like great. They revamp it. They do something weird in the middle, and then they wait a couple years, and then there's like a new script, and then they're just like, well, let's do it. And it's just a complete flop. Like, oh man, that I remember either hearing about that or seeing it. And I think, like, I don't know where this is going yet, and I also don't want to jump too far ahead, but have you heard like the reviews about the new Mulan movie?
So I've heard the reviews. I've seen some clips of the movie online. I'm just gonna wait till it hits Disney Plus for free to watch it. But I'm kind of even hesitant of doing that after seeing some of the stuff I saw. I don't know. I was a huge fan of the original cartoon version. I heard this is a very different take, but it just doesn't look good.
Oh, it's extremely different. It's not even a very different. It's extremely different.
Really?
Yeah, and I watched some Screen Rant review on it like just earlier today, and it just had me in stitches, man. I died. I literally had to be resuscitated because it was just hilarious, man. But yeah, that I haven't even looked at it because it's like $30 extra on Disney Disney Plus for that premium, and I was just like, nah, I'm good, man. I mean, I love Disney, but yeah, like you said, I'll wait for the free one.
Yeah, I'm not traveling down that rabbit hole right now.
Yeah.
Bill and Ted came out also. My brother, he was a pretty big Bill and Ted fan, went and saw. I was able to go see it in theater. Actually, they rented out a theater to go see it, and he was it wasn't worth it. Like he was like, you waited.
No?
He was like, you waited 25 years to see it. You can wait a couple more months until it's on Netflix or something. That's what he told me. So
yeah, I kind of took that from like the previews, man. I mean, like the trailers didn't even look that great. I mean, it just looked poorly put together just to give somebody something to watch. But the first trailer they did drop, it did look pretty good. But then the second one and then the third, the US drops were not that great. So I do want to watch it, but yeah, well, I'll figure it out.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get into the main topic: how the MCU how can the MCU movie forward? Wow, I need to learn how to type.
Is there anything against cigarettes on there?
No, man, you're good to go. Do what you got to do, man.
Beans.
So how can the MCU move forward? Now, I ask that question not because they're having trouble moving forward or that they're not moving forward. I ask that because DC kind of whipped out their dick and slammed it on the table a couple weeks ago, and we're like, hey, look at us, we're doing stuff. And how is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Studios, going to respond to that? That is what I'm asking here, because it's kind of a I mean, it's not like they can continue going the route that they were going for 11 years. They just can't do it. People are getting too smart. They're seeing that their movies were copy and paste to a certain extent for those 10, 11 years. You built up these characters. You had an overall arcing story that led from the creation of the first Avenger all the way to his story ending. You see Iron Man's story end. You see all these characters that were around for 10 years. They moved on. You can't continue moving the same way that you were in the next 10 years. And that's kind of what I want this discussion to be about, because how are they going to still be relevant in the superhero genre when you have Warner Brothers and DC and Warner Media kind of doing something huge over on this side where they're creating the multiverse of sorts, where everything they've ever done is now connected into one movie universe. And they have creative freedom beyond your imagination now. Directors can come in, if they want to make a movie like Joker but make it with Two-Face, they're going to get a chance to do it. Somebody wants to make a Clayface movie, they can do it. Somebody wants to make a movie all about General Zod that's separate from the Snyder stuff, they could probably do it. I mean, that's what we're talking about when it comes to what DC is doing with their films. They have so much freedom now that if they think that they can make it for a cheap buck and make some money, or make it for a lot of money and make a lot of money, they're going to do it. That's very different from what Marvel's been doing, because they're kind of like, okay, a budget of $300-400 million max, $200 million, around that. That's usually around what the first movie in one of their franchises starts out with, and then it goes up a little bit from there. And you got to sit there and think, like, okay, they've been doing the same thing for 10 years. What can they do differently now to move forward? And the beautiful thing about it, and they do have opportunity now, is because they bought the Fox properties back, such as Fantastic Four and X-Men. So for you, for you, man, like, we're not going to talk about New Mutants right now because that is outside of the MCU. Yeah. But for you, what are your expectations for Marvel and the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Well, I mean, this phase 4 into 5, I mean, the groundwork has already been laid out. I know the direction that they want to go, but like, I mean, well, we still don't know the full direction of where they want to go. But I mean, just with, you know, Black Widow being released soon, the Eternals will be coming next year. You know, like they do have like a plan, but I don't know if it will, you know, be in any kind of competition with DC right now. And that like just seeing the new, actually, the Joker is what changed my mind on DC, period. I like the grittiness, and that's one thing that DC always held, was just dark and grittiness. And sometimes this movie were a little too dark, but I think, like, I don't know, man. There's so many directions that I think they can go, and then now they're inducing. I mean, well, they already introduced time travel and all kinds of different things. So there's a lot of different routes. I mean, they're bringing in brand new characters. I mean, they're not brand new, but I mean, they're brand new to other people that have never followed comics, period. Like Shang-Chi, you know, like I'm looking forward to it, but I don't think it will hold up to what DC has planned. Like, I'm at this moment, now that Zack Snyder's cut is going to be released, like, that's going to open up even more possibilities for even more, like, just insane reality of like how dark and gritty, and then how they can just piece together like everything. Like, hopefully that made sense, but I mean, but,
you know,
I don't know, man.
I mean, I get it. You know, from Marvel's standpoint, they've pretty much they built a brand and they built a style that was successful. I mean, it's $1 billion franchise with with Marvel Studios. Everything that they've built is worth billions of dollars, and it was genius because they focus specifically on family friendly movies while telling some very, you know, deep stories. I mean, you know, about different types of things, PTSD and you know, I can't think of some, you know, I can't think of anything right now. I don't know why, but you know, the biggest one comes with PTSD with Captain America: Winter Soldier, as well as Iron Man 3.
Exactly.
There's a lot of stuff that they cover that kids. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they put them in kind of a kids type of movie, but as you said, DC has always been grittier and darker. And I can't even say always, because back in the 70s, 78 with Superman, that wasn't dark and gritty. It didn't get dark and gritty until 1989's Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1992, it got even a little darker with Batman Returns. Warner Brothers was like, hold up, too dark. Let's sell some toys now. And then Batman and Robin. Then they tried to get back into it a few times between 96, 97, until 2005's Batman Begins, which got back to that grittiness. Not as dark as it once was, but it got back to that grittiness with Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. So I completely understand what you're saying, you know, in regards to it being darker, and it is. And I've always appreciated that.
Yeah, I mean, we can even look at like just the Batman comics, period. I mean, those were dark. Like, well, yeah, there definitely still are. But like, I'm just saying, like, they were just dark, man. And it fed into that possibility of just like realism. But then, like we were saying earlier about like PTSD, you take like Iron Man, for instance, when he almost froze to death when he flew up into space, you know, that led into, you know, him putting in face cells, you know, for Spider-Man and himself, you know, at a certain point. Oh, hopefully I didn't lose you there. I don't know what happened here.
I'm right here.
Okay, there you go.
You were the one talking, so I gave you the screen.
No, it's all good, man. But yeah, like it was just like I get the PTSD aspect that you were going with it, you know, and that's what led to a lot of the newer inventions for Iron Man, like, you know, and then leading into the last nano suit, you know, which was an awesome awesome ending to his whole thing. You know, how they corroborate, like they put together everything from the past, even his oh man, what was it when Thor hit him with the lightning, and then he used the lightning to, you know,
yeah,
like it was just it was great, you know. But like I said, man, like DC, after seeing just the previews, and then even the what was that, the little cameo in the Crisis on Infinite Earths with the Flash, like, and then that's gonna bring on like a brand new suit, man. Like
yeah,
there's so much crazy stuff.
There's so much good going on with DC, and we're seeing that. But what can Marvel do to compete that? That's the question here, because what can they do? Now, personally, for me, they have a fantastic opportunity, and I believe they have to see this, that they have the X-Men franchise now. And there are fans out there, there are comic book fans, movie fans, superhero fans out there that prefer the darker, grittier take on the superhero genre, who will sit there and watch DC all day, every day, because it's darker and grittier, and they rag on Marvel. X-Men is their opportunity to kind of get into that darker, grittier feel of the superhero genre. And I don't see why they don't go that route. And what is so amazing that I have to believe Kevin Feige realizes this, that they have 10 years of world building. They have a world has been built for 10, 11 years now. The X-Men aren't in there at all.
No.
So we have 10 years that we missed out on having any sort of X-Men or, you know, a mutant gene even pop up in any form or fashion. So they need to speed that up a little bit. They need to get that out there. And what's the best way to do it? Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Or maybe even Hulu. You know,
so
show out there that is X-Men centric. Get these characters introduced. Get them 30 hours, 15 hours of screen time, and then you move them into the films.
Yeah. I mean, even with the Punisher, what was the other one? And the blind hero. Yeah, it was like the blind hero that, blind people couldn't see. Like I felt very bad about that, but like, I mean, that's even also like a true statement. Like, but like those were gritty.
Yeah, they had success with them. Now, unfortunately, that wasn't Marvel Studios.
I know.
And I believe it was Marvel Entertainment or Marvel Television Entertainment or something like that made them.
It's still an entity, but still doesn't count. I got you.
Yeah, but people love those iterations. So why not now? They've messed around, and there's talk of a multiverse within the MCU about to take place with Doctor Strange and the multiverse movie that they're making.
Yep.
There's no reason why they can't connect those. There's no reason. Connect them in. Bring in Daredevil into the films. Bring Punisher into the films. Bring them in because people would love it. You want to get these dark and grittier these fans that love the dark and gritty. That's another way to do it. I mean, that was a perfect. Like I didn't even think of that, but that's you brought it up and that's what made me think about it. It's a perfect example to do.
So I mean, so I feel like they can also take that same route with Blade. I mean, I kind of feel like you have to. That's either going to be a teen type movie.
You can't make Blade PG-13. You can't do it. It failed. We saw it fail. They did it. We tried with the third one.
Yeah. And I think they're going to have to push it either to like teen or rated R. I mean,
it has to be R. It has to be. I mean, but that can fit in the same thing as Deadpool. Deadpool was successful. They need to pull him into the MCU. And I'm not sitting here saying that it has to be built like the MCU was built, but they have to now expand. That's what they have to do in the MCU. They have to expand. If they want to stay competitive, they've cornered the market. They have cornered the market in the family-friendly superhero films. Like DC has such an uphill battle if they want to try and get to that. And I don't know if they even plan on it. I don't think they're worried about it, but it's a battle that that's not gonna be easily won or even attainable for them. But with Marvel, they have a chance because of all the divisiveness that's going on with DC and the fandom, while people love it, you have people who love what Snyder made. You have people that love Joker. You have people that are excited about the Batman. That's not all one fandom. Those are multiple fandoms there. So Marvel had a chance to step in and say, "Hey, Zack Snyder fans, you like what you saw there? Come on over here. You're gonna like what you see here. Hey, Batman fan, and that's what's lucky for them, because they can come in and they just have to do it the right way. And they have established characters like you mentioned: Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. I want another Luke Cage. I do. I first off, I love Mike Coulter. I think he is a fantastic fit for that role. Like, I absolutely love him in that role. I want to see more Luke Cage, 100%. And Iron Fist, second season was good. I don't like the guy who plays Danny Rand, so I could leave or take it, or leave it.
Yeah, I have like so many qualms with Iron Fist, man. Like, I don't know. It took me back to like just him just being a whiny little punk. Like, and then he also had to, establish that, hey, I am the Iron Fish. Like, I am. Like, everybody's just like, who cares? And then he would like punch him, and it's over, But like, I don't know, man. Like, it was just like, I just felt like it was terrible that he had to like announce himself like every single time. I mean, and you see that in like origins of different comics and or the movies itself. But I don't know, dude. It was like, even after it was already established, season 3, this dude is still introducing himself. Oh wait, was it 3 or 2?
There's just 2 seasons.
Okay,
but they feel
when
like
it went into the group, the Defenders, it kind of felt like a season 3 to me, because all they did was focus on the hand. I mean,
exactly.
But I don't know, like, and then just how it ended, I was just like, okay, we do deserve more, and then we're not going to get it. Like, that's.
And I think we should. I think it would be, honestly, I think it would be a really cool thing to see the Defenders just pop up on screen and maybe have there like be a little confrontation between the Defenders and the Avengers in some form or fashion. I think that would be fantastic to see. They have established characters that people love, and there's no reason why they can't bring them over. It's all within the same company. There's no reason why they can't. I know that the only thing that was holding them up was Netflix. But once that Netflix contract expires, which I think Daredevil expires this year. Iron Fist, I think, expires this year. I think there's a few of those contracts that are expiring this year. They can start implementing them in to the overall MCU. I think that's what they need to do. Why go out and recast Daredevil when you have a person who everybody already loves?
No. I was hoping at the end of like Infinity War that not Infinity War. Oh man, dude, I'm terrible right now. What was the
Endgame?
Yes. So Endgame, the battle, very last battle. I was hoping to just see them just get recruited at some point, and then they just like fought in the last battle. Like, that was it.
There's no reason why they couldn't have put them in the background. I mean, they put Howard the Duck back there, for God's sake.
Exactly.
There's no reason that they could not have put the Defenders in there. Unless they were, going off the whole idea that, 1, the Netflix contract, and 2, that they're part of another multiverse or another universe of some sort, and that they maybe have plans. I mean, I have to believe Kevin Feige had some sort of plan with those characters. I hope he does. I don't know, but I want to get back to the X-Men thing, because this is a brand that, for the better part of 20 years was pretty relevant in the superhero genre in itself for Fox, and had 9 movies total. There's 3 X-Men, Wolverine, First Class, the second one, third one, 8 or 9 movies total they have had in 20 years. Oh yeah, the Wolverine, Logan, so maybe 10. But you think about it, and people love those characters. People want to see them. They made money. Marvel has the possibility now of utilizing them, and to this point, we don't know anything about it. Now, that's not to say that they weren't going to announce something this year before all the COVID stuff happened. So maybe there is something in their plans, but I think, they need to jump on it quickly. Give us some casting, even if they recast Wolverine and have him pop up in a movie somewhere. I know there's rumors that Rogue is going to be in Captain Marvel too, but nice. I think we got to see this expand more. Storm might be in Black Panther too. So them popping up here and there is great and all, but I want to see something X-Men centric and see how it all fits into the MCU mold. And personally, I think that's the best way to kind of start their grittier universe. There's no reason why they can't have two universes. You have right here, you got the Marvel Cinematic Universe that's family friendly, and over here you got the one that is a little more gritty and dark and more adult centric. And you move that forward, side by side, and then they can cross over from time to time. So your family friendly characters can jump over to where it's a little more adult sometimes, or vice versa. Deadpool is the perfect example of being able to do that, because his solo movies and his character is better as an R-rated character, but there's no reason why he couldn't, for a short little 5-10 minute stint in an Avengers movie, tone it down to PG-13 levels.
Well, I think that is the main reason why they did the Once Upon a Time.
Mm-hmm.
That is the main reason, just to show that we can be PG, so they could get admitted into the multiverse, but oh man, there's just so much to I don't know. There's so many other characters just developed, and then there's a lot more characters that haven't even been touched.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's endless possibilities on where they can go, but it's just whether they do it in the right way for the fans.
Yeah.
I think that's always mainly it.
Well, for me, I'm kind of worried. Now, Taika Waititi did Thor Ragnarok. It was an enjoyable movie. I didn't hate that movie. I think it was a little too campy. I think it was it dumbed down Thor. It made Thor a character that I did not like, which they then ruined even further in Endgame. And that kind of disappointed me. The fact that you have Taika Waititi coming back and doing Thor Love and Thunder kind of worries me a little bit, because I don't want to see continuation of that version of Thor. I did not like it. I did not like what they did with him. The first Thor movie still, to me, is a top 5 Marvel movie. I think it was fantastic. It was small, secluded. It was a very personal story. That is how I think a lot of these characters should be when it comes to their solo outings. They started making them so grand and huge after the success of the Avengers. And they're like, okay, people want these big, huge stories. So let's make them each one bigger. And they started doing that. Perfect example is Captain Marvel. I think would have worked so much better had they grounded her a little bit more, and just not made it so large. Plus, it was also kind of a copy and paste of the first Captain America movie, but we're not going to get into that. I just so to me, I want them not go that jokey route that they're taking with Thor. I don't want them to then do it with other movies. You were talking about Blade. Blade is a great example. They could go dark with that. And now they're going to, but then they're going to be introducing vampires into the Marvel universe. Like, how is that going to work?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, because I don't know.
So I'm not fully caught up on where Sony and Marvel is with this whole thing. So I don't know if they're still in dispute. I thought that was kind of taken over, and they still have joint custody over the Spider-Man franchise too. So I mean, even with that being said, once they introduce Carnage, what's the Jared Leto movie that they're releasing soon?
Morbius.
Man. Yes. So once they bring in him, that's also another direct connection to Blade. So is that also going to be something that's also going to feed into the same multiverse? I don't know how they plan on doing this, but I do know that they all still exist in that same, they've all been in joint comics. That's where I'm getting at. So
yeah, no, I mean you're not wrong. The deal with Sony, I'm kind of looking it up right now. It was announced back in September of last year, September 27th. It's almost been a year since the new deal was announced. Let's see. I'm trying to see what it says. It's talking about profits.
Yeah, because I know either Sony wanted more money and Disney was just like, nah. Like that's the last that I heard of it, like during the beginning of this year, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't say. If I remember correctly, I was looking at the Variety post, and I don't think it says here. Let me see if I can find one other thing to look at real quick. And I don't like giving this particular website my clicks, but this might tell me what I need to see. Yeah. No, I mean, from what I understand, and I don't see it here either, is that there's, I think, 4 more films.
Joint ventures or individual type films just based under Sony? Because I think that's what's going to control like this next like multiverse if they can, take that route. But I don't know, man. I'm looking forward to Marvel stuff, but
yeah. So am I.
took the cake for me, man.
No,
I'm very avid about like the Justice League movie, Batman v Superman. Like how completely livid I was about it. But I mean, we're gonna get the Snyder cut, and I already know that's gonna be phenomenal, and that's why I brought up that other post too about Deathstroke. Like, man, I can't wait to see this stuff, man. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of close off the Marvel stuff here real quick, and we'll get to the Deathstroke stuff. Spider-Man, I think it's a total of 4 appearances, which is including 1 movie. So I think it's 3 appearances and 1 solo film left as part of the MCU. So I think he's going to pop up in like 1 or 2 Avengers movies and possibly something else, and then he'll have 1 more Spider-Man movie. But Morbius kind of alludes to Spider-Man being alive or being around in some form or fashion in that franchise because they brought in Michael Keaton's Vulture at the end of that trailer, which was the same character that was in Spider-Man Homecoming. So it's going to be interesting to see if that all comes together. Maybe there's more to the deal than we know, and it will all combine at some form or fashion. I don't want to see Tom Hardy's Venom included in that because that movie was atrocious. I think it was one of the honestly, I think it is the worst superhero movie that we've gotten since hands down.
I would rate that one over Captain Marvel any day. Like, but I mean, I know that's not in the same aspect, but dude, I would put that one in front of Captain Marvel. Like, oh man, I was completely let down with Captain Marvel. Like, I saw that before it even released. I had screener rights to see that one, but yeah, I was just like, oh, man, what's going on here? I don't know, man. It's Venom was not that great, but it paved the way for the rest of it. Like a lot of people didn't receive like the original Iron Man, as one of the best movies, which laid like a lot of the groundwork too, or the original Hulk movies. Like nobody even talks about those anymore. Like nobody.
Yeah.
Like they completely forgot about those. And the second one was atrocious, but it still led the way for the Avengers Assemble. Oh man, I cannot say words right now. But the initiative, the Avengers Initiative, like that's what introduced that too. When Nick Fury made his post-credit scene. Well, it was introduced in the post-credit scene along with Iron Man. So I don't know, man. It's Everybody seems to forget about those.
No, yeah, I mean, I don't actually. There's an article over on spoilerverse.com where one of our writers actually during quarantine started going through the MCU films, and the first one that he started off with was the Incredible Hulk. He never saw it before, so he kind of did a review on it. It's pretty excellent. So check it out at spoilerverse.com. But no, you're not wrong. I mean, there's a lot of, people forget about stuff, but that's because it's been 11 years since it started, and that's kind of the way that it is. But I mean, from my standpoint, when it comes to Marvel, I want to see them. And I think the way that they're going to stay successful and be a force to be reckoned with moving forward is if they kind of get away from their just simply staying family friendly and going to a more darker and grittier take on some of these characters, and kind of, like I said, having two universes that are one universe, but two franchises kind of moving side by side that can crisscross from time to time.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way that they're gonna find more success and bigger success than they had in the past 11 years.
But they also did that with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like just the direct. All right, so the connection of you had to watch. No, it wasn't Civil War. Yeah, was it Civil War? Oh man, everything's fading away now. But it was at the point where S.H.I.E.L.D. like completely broke down. We saw it in a movie, and then you had to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in order to get like the whole backstory on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, they did try to go that route, but like even Agent Carter, like I think they could have did so much more with Agent Carter, and they failed with that.
Yeah. That's
why it got canceled. Like, I mean,
what struggle would put them in this
another walk.
That's fine. They're gonna succeed now because Marvel Studios is in charge of all of it.
Yeah.
Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Netflix shows, Agent Carter, those weren't Marvel Studios production. They were Marvel Entertainment. So therefore, they didn't have to exactly stay connected to the films. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did it a little bit better than the Netflix shows did, but even then they kind of got way off. I mean, Ghost Rider, I would love to see a Ghost Rider film.
Which I thought they were going to go that route with another one, but I mean, the Nicolas Cage movies, I don't know, man. Like, they were there. Like, that's the most I could say. I mean, they were there. Like,
Marvel has so much potential when it comes to dark and gritty. People don't realize it. People just know what they've seen for the last 11 years and don't realize that they have all these IPs that are pretty dark, and they need to start utilizing them. That's the only way they're going to stay relevant. That's the only way they're going to stay competitive, because I really believe DC is going to just blow everybody away over the next few years.
Yeah.
And speaking
I definitely think like it might be, DC's time to shine, because I mean, Marvel took the cinematic universe to like a whole nother level. So it's like, all right, well, DC, what do you got? And then now they're just showing face now. I mean, it's yeah.
Now, speaking of DC, you're talking about how you posted that about Deathstroke in the Spoilerverse group and everything like that. There's so much that kind of has happened with DC over the past few months. Not everything has been announced yet, or even talked about yet at all. I mean, we have Justice League Dark coming out. It looks like it was originally going to be a television series, but it may actually now be turned into some sort of movie or mini series that's going to launch a whole bunch of other stories and movies with all those characters. You have Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is going to be moving forward. It is already, at this point, it hasn't even come out yet. It's still probably a year away from releasing. It is already the most successful launch of any DC film, because it was the most talked about film that has never been released in the history of the world. It's not been released. It's the most talked about. People want to see it. If it's successful in a critical sense, yes, we're going to see continuations with Zack Snyder finishing his arc completely. I think we're going to see Ben Affleck's Batman and more than just the upcoming Flash movie. which leads to our Deathstroke conversation. That is what was supposed to happen. Ben Affleck's movie was supposed to be Batman against Deathstroke, and that was going to be the whole story of that movie. Deathstroke gets a contract from Lex Luthor. He then goes to find the Bat and kill the Bat. That's what it was. I think that would have been fantastic to watch. And rumor has it Joker was going to be involved in some form or fashion in that movie as well. Like, come on.
Yeah. Like, I think they were going to like definitely go into, you know, the different Robins at some point just to bring them in and then actually touch on why there was a suit, you know, in the case with haha, joke's on you, you know, kind of thing in there. But yeah, like it just was never explained. It was just all left open. So it was like one of the other, you know, many unexplained things that happened in those movies that I think we definitely need to touch on. But
I agree. I've always said this. This is, if DC ever does anything, if they ever were to tune into my show or look at my Twitter, I asked them to listen to this one thing. Make a freaking Gotham franchise. Simply a Gotham franchise that can be spun out to everything else. But this is how you start it. You start it with a Nightwing movie. Nightwing. In the same sense of how Daredevil was made on Netflix. That gritty, dark take. You have it from the moment that that Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing. And he's trying to become his own man. Separate himself from Batman, separate himself from the shadow of the Bat. Even call it Nightwing, Shadow of the Bat, or something like that to move forward. And you can spin off Batgirl. You can get, you know, the new Robins, Jason Todd in there. You can get, you know, the Birds of Prey. Like, you could build the Bat family in the Gotham universe, and you start building that out. What does the Canaries do? That leads off to, you know, if you are the Birds of Prey leads to Canaries. Canaries could lead to Green Arrow, something. You know, it all comes around. You know, and you could do so much with that. And I just think that would be a brilliant idea. They're so focused. And don't get me wrong, I'm looking forward to Matt Reeves, Batman. 100% looking forward to that.
Man. Even though he looks like an emo, like it still looks dope as hell.
They're so focused on always utilizing Batman that they're forgetting about all these other characters that are part of the Batman that could be phenomenal to use. And you just build a little TV show or a little something, you know, series that is of Nightwing, and you build it off of Nightwing. And I kind of thought that's what they were going to do with Titans. And Jeff Johns kind of fucked it up, and the end of season 2 was horrendous. So
God, I don't even want to get into that. Like that was like one of my favorite TV shows, and then that ending was just terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
Unfortunate. We'll definitely talk about that another time. Once season 3 comes out and we start watching that, we'll talk about it. But I mean, that's kind of what I think they need to do. They, you know, from DC standpoint, to push forward. And you know, they don't need to connect it. They can connect it to a Snyder's universe. They can connect it to Matt Reeves' universe. They can make their own thing. I don't fucking care. Just do something. You know, get it out there. Like, I want to see Nightwing. It's just plain and simple. I want to see Nightwing. And I mean, I don't know. I just, again, DC right now, their future is very bright. I talked about that a couple weeks ago. And Marvel, they need to respond at this point. You know, they have not. They have been quiet as a mouse since May 20th of this year. It has been nonstop DC news with Snyder Cut, with Batfleck, with the Flash, with the Batman, with all this stuff. You know, Suicide Squad. It's been all DC. It's time for Marvel to come out and say, "Hey, don't forget about us. We still got stuff coming."
Yeah. So I know you know how I feel about, like, you know, Suicide Squad. Excuse me. And it was on like one of your other episodes that I was just like, dude, when are we going to see a movie where it's not about portals, man? Like, that's like the same plot I've seen in so many movies. Like, and there wasn't just one released in 1 year. It was multiple of the same plot. Big portal, gotta close it. If you don't, bad things come. Like we got to get away from that. I mean, well, they have to get away from it. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate because in a sense, that's kind of what Justice League was going to be in a smaller sense because of Steppenwolf trying to find the mother box, trying to take over Earth and form it to the way of Apocalypse. That's kind of what that movie was supposed to be setting up in a sense. Suicide Squad was supposed to be like the prologue to Justice League. So originally, Suicide Squad was supposed to have Steppenwolf in it, was supposed to have Parademons in it, was supposed to set that all up. And when they were at the 10-yard line, the 5-yard line, like, all right, we're about to throw this in and get this thing rolling. Jeff Johns came in and was like, nope, get rid of that. We got to change that. We don't want Steppenwolf in it. We don't want Parademons. So they had to quickly change everything to being about Enchantress and Incubus. And they still had all these concepts and all these designs already created for these portals and all these different things. So they had to kind of manipulate it to fit now what they had to do. So where it was supposed to be a prologue to Justice League, it turned out being this hodgepodge of what the hell's going on and weird Enchantress dancing that just made no sense. It was unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, like, it had so much potential in the beginning. We went through every character's, backstory. You learn to like love them and you learn to hate them at the same time because of their cockiness. But then when it finally came into like their actual battle and you're sitting there and you're just like, this is terrible. Like, what were they thinking? So yeah, I mean, if they were going that Parademon route and opening up that kind of portal to bring it in, into the Justice League, because it was a failed attempt. Like, and that also brings me into a certain thing that I said on one of your episodes too. Like, when are we going to get into the instead of the heroes actually winning every single time at the end of the movies, why don't we go back to they lose? The continuation into a joint project.
And I love that you say that because, while Justice League was going to show the victory of the Justice League, you were going to see them come together and be victorious against Steppenwolf. Justice League 2 was going to be the complete opposite. Justice League 2 was going to be the defeat of the Justice League to the point where they would have to figure out what the hell to do to change and alter time to be able to rectify what happened and stop it from happening. And that was the whole point of what Snyder was doing. He was trying to build this whole arc of, you see a victory, you see the league form, and of course they're going to have a small minor victory here. And they think, hey, no one can beat us. Look at us. And then Doomsday just slaps him across the fucking face. And they're like, well, shit. Dark. Did I say Darkseid?
There you go.
Darkseid comes in and slaps him
Same
across.
Difference.
Not at all.
No.
And then Justice League 3 would be them being victorious again. And people didn't want to see it. I mean, I'm not saying people, but Warner Brothers was afraid to go that route. And it's shocking because you take a look at the most successful film trilogies of all time. Star Wars, the original Star Wars. You have a victory in the first act, they lose in the second act, they have a victory in the third act. Lord of the Rings, same thing. You look at that and it's like, Warner Brothers, why are you being stupid? Like, just let Snyder finish this, because I think in hindsight, people are going to love it. And it's not that they weren't financially successful. They were. Yeah. The Snyder films have made more money than the non-Snyder DC films. Yeah. And people fail to realize this, with the exception of Wonder Woman, which technically is a Snyder because he was a producer on Wonder Woman and he helped create the character and he helped Patty Jenkins, write the story and push forward with that movie. Mm-hmm. All of his films have been successful financially. Critically, maybe not so much as, say, Shazam, but what does the studio want? Do they want more of a financial success or a critical success? Normally they want the financial. So why not? Why did they feel that they had to move away from what Zack Snyder was doing? And we completely got off topic here and started talking about.
I know, my bad, man. Like I just became like a DC fanboy now just because of the fandom. So I'm not even gonna lie about that. Like I said, man, you know how I felt like previous about like Justice League and Batman v Superman, but yeah. Take me in the direction where you want to go, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, actually, I mean, we're well over an hour now, and it was great having you on. But I'm going to kind of wrap up the show here now because I got to go do some things and get stuff done. I have another show coming up this week I want to tell everybody about over on my other YouTube channel, Shooting the Sith. We're getting back. I'm doing a once a month show for Star Wars discussion. As of right now, I have planned 3 editors from the Culture Nerd, Marcus, TJ, and I'm sorry, buddy, if you're watching or listening. I can't remember your name. I'm going to look it up real quick here. Hopefully, real quick, like maybe. I've got TJ, Marcus, and crud. Oh, well, yeah. 3 editors.
It happens.
Oh, Sean from the Culture Nerd. Yeah, they're going to be on this Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to talk Star Wars. We're going to discuss the pros and cons, what worked for the sequel trilogy, what failed for the sequel trilogy, and what Lucasfilm and Star Wars could look like in the future. So that's kind of what our discussion is going to be about. But yeah, thanks, Gary, for jumping on. Definitely now, since you know how easy it is, if we can get your laptop working, it'd be even better to jump on.
No doubt, man.
Yeah, definitely. And the great thing about it is if you jump in the comments while I'm doing a show and we don't have you planned to be on, just say, hey, I can jump on. I'll throw you on the show. I have no problem with that. So keep that in mind.
Hey, look, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me, man. Like, no dude, I'm always here, man. I mean, I'm bored, man. I work from home now, so
yeah.
All I do is sit here and watch movies, and yeah. All right, dude.
All right, talk to you later.
All right, man.
Bye. All right, guys. That has been Bridging to Geekdoms for September 7th, 2020. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. As always, make sure you jump over to spoilerverse.com. Spoilerverse.com is where you're going to find all of the great Spoilerverse things, such as Bridging to Geekdoms. You got Shooting the Sith, Polygon Warriors, Spoiler Country, our flagship show. All those fun things you'll find over at spoilerverse.com. You will also be able to find great articles, reviews on movies, video games, comics, TV shows, all that kind of stuff. So check out spoilerverse.com. You can find Bridging to Geekdoms on all of your podcast apps, such as Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all that jazz. So make sure you find and subscribe there. Make sure if you're watching us on YouTube, you smash that subscribe button and you hit that like button and share this all over and tell your friends, check out Bridging to Geekdoms. Some big things are happening, not just with Bridging to Geekdoms, but the Spoilerverse as well. So make sure you keep watching this channel and checking the website out because it's pretty exciting what's happening. And we want you all to come with us. So with all of that said, thank you so much for watching. And I will talk at you next week.